My name is David Johnson. I'm an actor most days. I think the lights and the makeup and the angles that they shoot me at makes me look a bit more beautiful than people actually think I am. I mean, check my scar.
Growing up, how aware were you of the fact that you won the genetic lottery?
The genetic lottery, oh wow. My mother is exceptionally beautiful. If I got any ounce of any sort of beauty, then it must be from her. But thank you for thinking that I'm remotely beautiful.
But was it somewhere, were you aware at any stage? I mean, you come from a family that one of your brothers dabbles into fashion modeling.
Yeah.
So it goes to prove my point of the looks.
It's not looks. I don't think it's looks. I think it's like selling sex. There's something you have to be. I do believe I'm unique. Just like I believe anybody's unique until they start believing it. Then nobody's like anybody else. I don't like generalizing people. I think everybody, if you just take time to look at them, has something unique about them. And that's where I think beauty really sits, instead of in terms of your features or the way your eyes sit, because you can look at anybody like that and anybody can find somebody attractive in some way through that. So as a kid now, I mean, especially growing up in a very light skin dominated view of beauty and blue eyed, it was not part of the idea of what beauty was.
Was there at any point of your becoming or your formative years that you realized that people treated you differently because of your uniqueness, as you like to call it?
I believed I was different. I don't think people treated me differently. I think a lot of people were wondering, how do we deal with him? So if it was that, I don't think people treated me differently. I think, and a lot of it comes down to, and I'm going to say it, to church. I was in a very mixed cultural church in the Eastern Cape. We had and you want to talk about beauty, I think of my friend Tandile, had the darkest skin, the most beautiful teeth, the white, tall, everything. There wasn't anything. There was there were so many mixed people in our church, and we had guys from Ireland would be visiting, and they had this very fair skin, and even Afrikaans. I think of one of my best friends at the time was Renier Retief, who had this very gawky guy, blonde hair, perfectly sort of like bowl cut blonde hair. So in the space I was, everybody was unique. Nobody was like the other. And I think our parents and in the church within that space, because we were a very small church, and obviously in the 80s you weren't allowed to mix as freely as that. So everybody knew when we were getting together, it was like, we are friends and we're special and we can be together. So it was like a secret society, and many people will tell you or think it's a cult if they did hear about it. But I think in that I learned about uniqueness, and that everybody's love is unique.
What shaped your decision to get into performance art space? Was there a definitive moment you can pinpoint towards as to when you knew?
To become a professional, I always enjoyed performing. I always enjoyed in the church. I sang in the choir. I did the nativity plays at school since up A. I've played a frog in in green tights. I've always performed. It's been both my parents sang in the church choir. My brother was a rapper when we were in the Cape. So it's always, performance has always been there. But to become a professional actor, and even when I got to Cape Town, when we finally moved there in the 90s, I worked in a music store. My school had drama. You were interacting with people like Mendoza came into the store, people like Tolle van der Merwe, rest his soul. People like Dozy were just starting their careers at that point in time. I think it was the first idols even in the time I was working at that music store. So you were always sort of meeting these, so to say, famous people, but you got to see these are normal people doing extraordinary sort of well in the industry and entertainment. They had a name, they had a brand. And when it actually hit me, I went to go watch Joe Barber in Cape Town. It's a theatre piece with David Isaacs and Oscar Peterson. And when I finished school, I was going to study medicine or something at Stellenbosch, or go to UCT, and to UWC. I had like dentistry. I was going to do things like that, help people feel better. And that was the main thing. I wanted to make people feel good about themselves, no matter who, how, color, whatever, just so that life isn't as bad as how it was portrayed of in the time I grew up. Where there was this negativity of this oppressive system on us, and I wanted to feel, well, baby, people, we're in a new space, we're in a new world, there's a brighter future ahead. And I went to go watch Oscar and David do this show, Joe Barber, and laughter is the best medicine, they say. And then I went, that's what I want to do. I want to make people laugh. I want to make people energized. I want them to walk out of one of my shows and be like, I feel better, and also make a point about something in life that they can look at it differently. And the arts and theatre and performance and all aspects of the arts allow us to think of ourselves differently, and that's why I entered into specifically acting, because I had sort of a performance background by then, from acting at school, from singing, and all of those things.
Do you have any key mentors or people who deeply influence who you are, what you believe in, and what you committed to in your work and life?
My mentors in life, I definitely have to start with my dad. I enjoy reading, I loved reading. I remember like my first memories of my dad giving me the Secret, I think a Secret 5 or the Famous 5 and the Secret 7, those books, those spy books to read, and getting lost in those books for hours and just imagining those worlds where kids were. So my dad was, and in terms of maths and having a maths brain and putting 1 and 1 together, and sometimes you can get 4 or pi squared and those things, he excited me about those things, because my dad is a dreamer. He's an 8-year-old boy. Up till now you see this 8-year-old boy, and he was always committed to our education and getting us into spaces that he wasn't allowed to get into. So he is my first inspiration, and a lot of things I do is to make him proud. And I challenge him as well, because they're not necessarily things that he might think you'd have seen his son do, but also going, but Dad, we can appreciate life in different ways now. Definitely one of my inspirations. Joshua Johnson, I mean, what a powerful name. Then there's coming to my brother. My brother Malcolm represented sort of a rougher part of life for me, but he was the big brother. He schooled me in a lot of things, like streetwise, and the areas we were in, you need a big brother. You encounter a certain amount of violence. You had a brother that could protect me, that also could push me. My sport was very important to me. My brother was a really great athlete at school, and was also living in his shadow, so trying to push myself to those levels of achievement. And physically, where on the one hand my dad was making me this reader academic, my brother was really pushing me as a sports person, and he was quite the achiever at school. In my terms of care and love, I mean, my family is very important, because they were always there for me before anybody else. They had a certain way of thinking. My brother had a certain way of thinking. My mom had a certain way of thinking. They had knowledge that they had experience in the environments that they grew up. My mom finished school at 5, yet she had this brain and information that she still stuck to, moving to Cape Town, living in District 6. She had acquired so much information she could pass on to me as a child. The important words of hers, I still carry the tablet around my neck, and my whole family was that for me. I can always refer back to moments in my life where I'd grown with them. Times I shared in a car and looked at something differently. Well, they've always been my companions. And I guess when it came to a stronger philosophies and academic was going to UCT, I think my mentor for a long time was Mark Fleischman. He had also made me think about my identity within the space differently. As a student, where I never saw myself in certain realities, and he changed a lot of those views. I also traveled quite a bit with him in places in South Africa where just academically we were researching certain topics about migration and how people move and people's identities based on the spaces they encounter, how somebody in a city lives according to somebody in a rural area, and the thinking and how those things inform us. And on a large scale, he pushed me and in a way that a father would push a son. He played a big role in my life, and many directors that I've worked with in the industry, from Lauded by people who've sat with me as an actor, who've pushed me as a person to limits that I never thought I could reach as a performer. So yeah, I've got a few. I can't just say there's three, you know. I've shared many special moments, fights. I think when I can fight with you, you know, and you can understand that it's not a personal attack, but it's trying to make sense of what I'm experiencing, and that's somebody that I always considered a master and a mentor who could get me to the next step I needed to be.
Having been somebody who was had the brains enough with this great support system from the family, was there ever a point where there was that tug and pull when it came to your qualification decision, going to UCT to study the arts as opposed to doing medicine?
Oh, I get, you know, my parents have always been open until a point when I always tested them. They've been open, and I think my mom and my dad were living in Namibia at the point when I decided I'm going to go study. And only when they came home, because when they left, I was working in this music store. When they came back home to visit, I was, hey, I'm going to go study at UCT. I didn't say what, but the fact that you got into UCT, you know, I think that excited them. And then I said, well, I'm studying drama, musical theater, you know. And for them, it was also to live a different life through their kids, because they weren't allowed to think so freely in terms of that. You know, at that point, I would write my mom a song, and she'd come home and I'd say, Mom, I wrote a song for you, and we'd sit on the stoop, I'd play my guitar, and you know, which I did, because I was at that point in a CD store, listening to music. We went to go watch many artists together. When my mom was visiting from Namibia, we used to go watch Black Sunshine if they were performing somewhere in Woodstock, you know, Freshly Ground, all of these, like that was my mom and I's thing. We'd have our own little dates, kind of, you know, because I know my dad's not here. I can't let my mom sit at home, so we had our little times we spent together. And so a lot of time we spent it with music, because I know how much she loved music. And at the same time, you're taking out your mom, and you'd have a guy flirting with your mom, and you also like, she's not just my mom, she's a woman. You know, this whole time she's been my mom, but she's a woman. And she gave up most of her life to raise her kids. So it was also a great, so for them to see me going into this space, they knew I was a bit different, you know. I wasn't going to be, like, as well as I did academically, I only did academically in a way to please them, that, you know, so that I could get to where I wanted to get, to change people's lives. And like I say, I didn't know if geography was going to change anybody's lives, except the fact that I knew how to get to that place or that place, or knew those minerals.
In the performative art space, what are some of the pain points of trying to work at a slower pace, given that everything happens so quickly and on a global scale?
Keeping up with the times. That's how I'm going to see it. No two spaces. I guess there's a global pace to things. I guess there's but within each of environment, it's got its own pace. And when you can almost see it from moving from rural into big city. The qualities that you might find in rural expressions, there's a uniqueness that you'll only find in that space. When you get to the city space, you become more generalized in people's wants and needs. They're looking for something that's more overall feeding the community. So I got to live in both spaces. And you got to be able to deliver quickly, but you also have to know certain things you can't rush. And that's a lot up to you, and that's, you know, working in theater where you take time. You take 3 weeks, 4 weeks to research a character, and all of a sudden you're in television and you just have to learn your lines and come and do a performance by next week. So you got less time. So understanding that those spaces do exist and you can express yourself in both, but it's an exercise. You have to be accustomed to take it, because you can't rush yourself in theater. You have to let yourself take the time to find your character, because that's going to bring out elements that you get to think and ponder on. Whereas in television, or maybe less film, but in television, it's such an immediate medium that you have to express yourself, and you don't have as much time. And then when you're in a place like South Africa, which is compared to, say, Europe, where the expressions have evolved to such a point in certain ways in Europe, where dance is the highest form of expression, because there's no words, it's just watching and receiving what is being told, or looking at expensive artworks. We just stand in front of them and you experience these artworks, where we maybe not have the economy to invest in the same way in artists. So therefore we invest in a much more immediate art form, like television. You know, we don't necessarily see it as an art form, but it's immediate. We can get it immediately, we can experience it immediately. So that exchanges quite quickly. Maybe in some the quality is not as good because the amount of time hasn't been invested in, where in certain systems in Europe they have a certain appreciation and understand that. But you have to look at a country's economy, where they allow you the time to express that. So that's looking at global, and on a local sort of more, South Africa is a smaller nation compared to the rest of the world.
What would you say is the one problem, be it socio-political, socio-economical, or cultural, you intend to solve with your work?
For myself, I definitely look at South Africa as a complete country. The way a lot of people can still break it down into racial, like there's boundaries between the groups. I try to find a way, like dance, that people can look at me, and more than experiencing my color or my clothes, or that they see the human being in front of them. Where a lot of the country was based on, like, purely on racial. That's who we are. Your race is what defines you. And as an actor, I get to explore more complex. A lot of time I've been approached like, this is for a white actor, you know, and then all of a sudden I was like, well, the character's white, sorry. And then I was like, but I can play that role. And then just what is the thinking about that you're talking about? So what is that character representing at the end of the day, and what's the function of that character? And can we see him as something else besides his skin color? Naturally, whatever character I'm going to play, this is who I'm going to be. You know, that my skin is going to be, but it's being able to let people see my mind when I'm performing, that they go beyond just my skin, that they see the human being within the character.
Having said that, do you think race is a color or power?
It's probably both, eh? I think okay, it can't be a color. I must say, it can't be a color. I was just thinking about a conversation I had with this journalist. We were coming from Chalon-sur-Saône to Paris, Chalon-Sion, and she asked me, how does it feel to be Matisse, mixed? And I asked her, how do you feel about being mixed? but she's now light, pale, Caucasian. She said, I'm not mixed. I was like, but nobody's can be pure. I said, so you're French? Your mom is French? She said, yes. And your dad is French? She said, no, my dad is Italian. So I was like, Matisse, you mixed. So you couldn't talk about a color. And where does the mix come from? Is it language mix? What makes you mixed? In terms of and it's not a racial thing. Because that was at that point I realized it's not a color. For me, it's not a color.
So it's a power dynamic.
It's a power dynamic.
What is the underlying message in your career that ties it all together?
Oof. You can always be better. The underlying thing for me, I don't necessarily preach it to people, but I can always be better. I can always do more. I look for those things. And I love it about life because there's actually so much to offer. So you can always be better and you can always do more.
And then if you're not doing what you're doing today, what would you do? And do you have any other dream jobs outside television and theater work?
I started looking into conservation last year, and I can't steer too far away from where I'm grounded. So I'd like to use the platform that I have to convey certain messages, especially about our carbon footprint, about if you look at the crocodile river here close towards the amount of pollution, the things that's floating in that river. So I've got a traveling show that's coming out that will be specifically, part of the show besides traveling, it's also to look at how we as people of this planet are busy polluting our environment. I also look at early childhood development, both programs that our First Lady is running, and there's a program with FNB, looking at that people get the equal level of education, or at least get to start standing this world much better around them, and through the digital age, and having resources and at hand to be able to do that. So it's definitely the youth and education and finding ways to education. So teaching. I always sit in two places I like to teach and I also like to learn as I go along on this journey called life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how long did it take your audience to understand that you're a fully rounded, dynamic person? You're more than just a character that you play, whichever platform they might have experienced you?
To my audience, now I'm a fully rounded person. I'd like to keep certain things secret. I understand there's two parts of what I do. There's an actor and there's a celebrity. And there's things I have to do as a celebrity. Social media, posting, appearances. And what I love about my audience and my fans is that they build me and they support me. If it's not for them, and when I meet them and I get to have a conversation, because then I know who I'm making work for. I know who's watching me. I know what we're dealing with together, because that's the relationship. It's like an exchange. You show me what you see in life and perceive, and I can start holding up a mirror. I can look at that mirror, I can discuss, and we can start building. And that's why I haven't left South Africa, because I want to be part of this movement of the storytellers and reflecting and building this beautiful South Africa that we all see every day, and keeping it in that place. I want to be part of it. I want to be part of the heroes. If I want to see myself anyway, I want to know when somebody says, David Johnson affected me so. David Johnson gave me this. And then I've got to go, what would I want to give to my audience that they feel uplifted, they feel healed. And that's why I work across every boundary, whether it's having a sexual performance about certain characters dealing with certain sexual issues or racial issues. I want to be part of that healing for South Africa.
And how long did it take you to separate David the being from the public figure to the work that you do and the business within the work that you do?
I don't know if they're separated.
Because they're all rooted in you.
Yes, I always try to be as real as I can be. I mean, I do get tired, I do get depressed. That's when I guess I have to keep to myself a little and deal with my thoughts and be a lively person. I mostly am very quiet. I am a very quiet person. But I guess when I'm in the garden, which is not something that I do when I'm with my dogs, when I'm with my wife, that's where I guess I'm the most relaxed. I know sometimes audiences and fans want to see the person who they see on TV, and I also respect and understand that because that's who they engage with sometimes. But I also like to introduce myself as David, and I would like to take a few moments to speak to you so you can also meet me at the same time. So I never just go, they go, oh, you that character. Then I go, cool, hi, but my name is David, and what's your name? And then we can engage in the conversation. Oh, okay, and you do this, and yeah. And we find interest and commonalities in each other. And that's when I guess people get to experience a bit of that more weird guy.
Are there limits to human creativity?
Oh, there are limits to unit. Yes, once you're dead, you can't do anything anymore. But you can keep going for as long as you can.
What influences your creativity?
People. And people in every form, whether they're writers, designers, teachers, under 10 rugby players. All of those things influence the way I experience the world and then put it out there.
What informs your decision to share your body of work after creating it?
Normally there's a contract you sign before you do anything, which sort of puts you in a position that this will go out into public. But why do I do the work that I do? Why do I play characters that I choose to play? Is that I've been lucky. Normally, if I got it, all is because somebody had, hey, I know you do like challenging stuff and weird characters and you don't go for the norm, but would you be keen to play this character? So then there's somebody who knows my work, and it's somebody that takes interested in what I do, and then together we're now going to find this we're going to put together, because it's a collaborative process. Me, David, is not here by myself, and this I've been informed by a lot of people to become the person I am today. So when I put it out there, it's a collaborative process. It's never just me going, this is my idealistic opinion of how the world should be.
And then have you ever came up with a piece of work so good, it became so sacred to you, you decided not to share it with the world?
No. I don't know, I get confused sometimes. I don't know what's good or what's you know. I think I've received a lot of criticism for some like stuff I've put out there, even just with my music, but you play it for one audience and it's like 2 people are offended, and then you go play it somewhere else and then people are like, wow. And and a lot of people say you either like me or you don't. You know, a lot of my work is not for everybody. Yeah. So I've these things maybe not, and I'm not saying that I thought maybe not brave enough to put out there. That I just felt like David, I'm not. I've got something from personal space where I feel I'm just not brave enough. And more as you become older, you realize, oh well, time is shortening now, and if I'm going to be balls to the wall, then I've got to do it now.
How did you learn to protect yourself when you were being put in compromising situations?
Compromising situations. I've got lots of people who care about me around me, and who always, because I actually don't see. I don't know how. I guess I've surrounded myself with people who love me. And because they love me, they can safeguard me against things that I'm not aware of. I accept everybody for who they are, and I see the best in people. And most of the time, I never see a bad thing coming. because that's not the world I see.
So you've had it easy.
I have had it pretty easy, but I have scars that will make you think. I choose not to ponder on those things. I wouldn't want to be that kind of person if, my neighbor's been robbed and all of a sudden I've got to build high walls because my neighbor was robbed. And I guess I've been hit hard in my youth, where I understand that people can be bad, but it's not my focus.
Cultural radar. What is moving the needle and hitting the cultural nerve right now?
The cultural nerve. From my perspective, I think we've been separated for so long that finding a common language, and that specifically to South Africa, and it's amazing how we mix. We and I can speak in terms of I had to play a funny galo. I had to play a character once. I had to speak funny galo, and the mixture within almost it's mine workers who speak funny galo. And you could, if there's people who disagree with me, they can disagree. But when learning to play this character, I was like, there's a great potential here. Because we have these 11 official languages, and if we're not so pedantic about how they must be expressed, we can find a unified South African language within this place. If we're not so what are that common place? Because we do all go sharp, we do all go our way. We can all go molo. We can mix it up and play with it and realize that's unique. Until we leave the space to realize how unique we actually are here as South Africans in one space. And when we find that we have more in common than we do, then we differ. I think culturally we're going to find a greater way to express ourselves than just the small circles that we normally hang out in.
How do you define success for yourself?
Success for myself is to be able to take responsibility for the things I take on in life, especially at the age I've taken on things, I'm any choice that I make, I can take responsibility for that. Anything I say, I can take responsibility. Anything I put out into the world, and be able to keep consistently doing what I need to do is success for me.
What do you know now that you didn't know then that you wish somebody told you?
I wish somebody told me. What do I know now? Wow, and that's too bland. If you put your mind to it, you can do it. It's like a generic thing, and it's not really that. It's that everything you have, everything you need. You have ears to listen, to absorb things from people. You have hands to be able to express yourself. You do have a voice, which was one of the biggest things I was afraid to say what was on my mind. I guess now with time, I've been able to become more calculated in when I say things, now how people receive it. But I guess I wouldn't have known it then until I went through all of this that I went through now.
What does it mean, that lesson that took you longest to learn?
I think it's still coming. I think that lesson is still coming. I don't even know that all the lessons that we put on there, I think I got the hang of it, but I don't. I think there's it's like just when I thought I had this one down, the goalpost move. I think my greatest lessons are still coming.
It's still coming.
It's still coming.
Nothing shows up constantly that you still haven't figured it out.
No, I think life is organic, and I see it move, and you practice, you fail. There's getting rid of bad habits. That's one of the things that, and I mean, I don't know what your bad habit is, but and a bad habit is just something that keeps you from doing what you need to do to get done. And it's habits. I've always got to break certain habits. And it's tough when you're in a world that is expecting you to be one person, and then you got to change it up a bit, because actually now I'm trying to get to the next level of this game. So I've got to stop doing that thing for a while.
Do you worry about money?
Not money per se, but there's certain things I want to do with my life, and that requires money. So it's more about how do I get to making the money I need to do the things I need to do.
And if money was not an issue, how far do you think you'd be right now in terms of your goal achievements?
If money wasn't an issue, yes, I can be so idealistic sometimes. Would I have achieved the goals? I love traveling, and I've been traveling, and maybe to go see places with my partner, just to show her, and maybe because we're sort of short in our journey. So if money, I think, because yes, if then I travel everywhere, I would go to Mexico, Argentina, all those places if I didn't need money.
Yeah. Who taught you how the business of acting or performance art and the money thing involved works together?
The Cape Town is a very more, let's say, a creative space in terms of, not creative, it's theatre, where most of my performance is based. And there's not a lot of money in theatre. Most of my acting career in theatre, I probably lived in my parents' house. Because that's what I could afford at the time. It also happened that they were living in Namibia, so the house was there and there was a place, and I traveled quite a bit. That was, I was working abroad, so I couldn't necessarily get an apartment for, say, 3 years. I'm gone, I've got to give it apart, so things I had to go store with my mom, back and forth. And then when I moved to Johannesburg, there's the Joburgers, man. They slick, man. Those city people, they like business. They exchange. You can sell a used battery. You can the business of it. I mean, that's why I love Joburg, because people are taking that same creativity and finding out to change it into a business. I've even done business courses online. And then until I even did a DTI, Department of Trade and Industry. So we set the course, and I was sitting and I was like, okay, this is Joburg, this is the financial center. So, and that's very like, that's like 20, almost 30s that I learned about business. Otherwise I was happy-go-lucky. I'm just going to express myself to the world, man. Yeah, so it was up here, you Joburgers, man.
What is your daily prayer?
My daily prayer, thank you. Thank you that I am awake, I'm alive, and I'm going to experience things today that I might not could have ever experienced or would have experienced. And there's always something new. Because I just want to feel everything. Yeah, I'm sitting today. I mean, yesterday I never thought I was going to sit here talking to you. There's always something new that life has to offer if you open your eyes and smell the roses.
How do roses smell like?
They're sweet. They don't have a specific, but it's unique to a rose. You're not going to smell it on any other plant.
Is love a feeling or a choice?
Feel. No, I'm just saying, how do I feel when I'm in love? But it is something you have to choose. It's like you choose to be happy, you choose to be in love. Yeah.
So it's a choice.
How do I? It's a. When you're a baby, you don't know, because you're feeling those things. So that is also part of you, because that's the basis of it. This is how. Oh, I feel good. I feel. What is this? Must be. You don't know it's love, but those feelings come over you when you're in love. But it's also depends on you when you choose. You can put yourself in that space. Yeah. So it's got to work hand in hand, the feeling and the choice.
You're sitting there right now, not as a baby. So when do you know that you are truly loved?
When I'm truly loved, when I'm always forgiven. Like I know I quoted nonsense. I know, and I'm still forgiven. I know I did something that you don't like, and there's just things that you go, you're gonna forgive me like that, though. That pisses you off, man. And then like, and the other person doesn't see it like that, and they say, and you go, wow, okay, yeah.
By what standards do you judge yourself?
The Bible. I enjoy Psalms and Proverbs, and when I sort of see certain things and understand through the Bible and it's the philosophies, and if you put it into practice, and when you don't do this, not necessarily that I judge myself according to, but I know there's certain things, if I don't put them in place, somewhere else a nut is going to come loose, or that spare wheel is going to be flat by the time I need it. So it gives me certain guidelines to be able to travel safely through this.
And what is your personal mission statement?
My personal mission statement, only God can judge me. I've spent a lot of time trying to impress other people and doing what people want me to do, and like I said, in terms of things I've learned through the lessons I've learned through the Bible, I've sort of made peace with myself, and not to be so hard on myself that I'm not perfect.
Are you most happy when?
I'm most happy. There's so many moments I'm so happy, man. Just that moment just before you go sleep makes me very happy. Swimming. I'm swimming now, and I really enjoy swimming. That makes me also, that moment's very happy. But I'm most happy when I got through something that I never thought I was going to be able to do. When I know that wasn't me, I needed some more belief in myself than just what I had to get to, and then I'm even more than happy.
I believe in
I believe in I believe in you and me.
What do you wish for yourself?
Health, prosperity, kids, lots of kids. Yeah.